The fluorescent lights in the accounting office buzzed overhead like angry wasps as I stared at my computer screen, watching the numbers blur together for the third time that morning. My hands trembled as I reached for my coffee mug. That familiar ceramic cup with the faded "World's Best Mom" print that my daughter had given me years ago. The bitter taste of the dark roast should have been comforting, but lately, even my morning ritual felt wrong. I blinked hard, trying to focus on the quarterly reports spread across my desk. The air conditioning hummed relentlessly, making the office feel like an Arctic wasteland despite the August heat outside. My coworkers' voices seemed to drift from underwater, muffled and distant. This wasn't normal. For 3 weeks now, I'd been experiencing these strange episodes: dizzy spells, confusion, memory lapses that left me stumbling through presentations and forgetting important deadlines. Before I share this shocking experience, please show your support with a like and subscribe. Comment your location below. My name is Margaret Kelly, I'm 48 years old, and until recently, I prided myself on being sharp, reliable, and completely in control of my professional life. 23 years I'd worked at Henderson Financial Services, climbing from entry-level clerk to senior accounting manager. My corner cubicle overlooked the parking lot where maple trees cast dancing shadows across the asphalt, and I knew every creak and groan of this old building like it was home. But something was destroying everything I'd built. "Margaret, you look pale again," came a voice behind me. I turned to see Patricia Hoffman approaching, her perfectly styled blonde hair catching the harsh office lighting. Patricia had joined our department 6 months ago, bringing with her an impressive resume and a smile that never quite reached her steel-gray eyes. At 42, she carried herself with the confidence of someone used to getting what she wanted. "I'm fine, Patricia," I managed, though my voice sounded strange even to my own ears. "Just tired." She perched on the edge of my desk, her manicured fingers drumming against the wood surface. "You've been saying that a lot lately. Maybe you should consider taking some time off? I mean, after what happened in the Morrison meeting yesterday?" Heat flushed my cheeks as I remembered stumbling through the quarterly presentation, losing my train of thought mid-sentence, watching confused faces around the conference table. Mr. Henderson's disappointed expression still haunted me. Patricia had smoothly stepped in to finish my presentation, earning grateful nods from everyone present. "I don't know what's wrong with me," I whispered, more to myself than to her. Patricia's hand landed on my shoulder with what felt like mock sympathy. "These things happen as we get older, Margaret. The mind isn't as sharp as it used to be." The condescension in her tone made my stomach churn, but I was too exhausted to argue. I watched her walk back to her pristine desk, her heels clicking against the linoleum floor with military precision. Her workspace looked like something from a magazine. No personal photos, no cluttered drawers, just stacks of perfectly organized files and that expensive-looking water bottle she always carried. That evening, I sat in my kitchen picking at a sandwich I had no appetite for. The familiar comfort of my yellow walls and grandmother's china cabinet usually soothed my nerves, but tonight nothing helped. Through the window above my sink, I could see Mrs. Patterson's garden next door, her prized tomatoes heavy on the vine in the golden sunset light. The front door opened with its usual squeak, and I heard my husband David's work boots on the hardwood floor. At 51, David Kelly still had the solid build of the construction foreman he'd been for 25 years, though gray now threaded through his dark hair. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, his weathered face creased with concern. "How was work today, Maggie?" he asked, using the nickname he'd called me since we were teenagers. I couldn't meet his eyes. "Terrible. I think I'm losing my mind, David." He crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled out the chair beside me, his calloused hands gentle as they covered mine. "Tell me what happened." The words tumbled out. The confusion, the memory lapses, the way Patricia had to rescue my presentation, the growing whispers I caught in the break room. David listened without interruption, his blue eyes never leaving my face. "This isn't you, Maggie," he said finally. "In 28 years of marriage, I've never seen you doubt yourself like this. Something's not right." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Sarah Chen, my closest friend at Henderson Financial. Sarah had worked in the IT department for 15 years, and her technical expertise had saved me from countless computer disasters over the years. Her message was brief but urgent. "Can we talk tomorrow? Found something strange on the office security footage. Don't mention this to anyone." My hands shook as I showed David the message. His jaw tightened as he read it, and I could see the protective anger building in his expression. "What could she have found?" I asked. "I don't know," David said. "But Sarah wouldn't contact you like this unless it was serious. She's always been straight with us." I thought about Sarah, her quiet intelligence, her loyalty, the way she'd noticed my struggles these past weeks, and gently offered support without making me feel helpless. If Sarah had discovered something on the security footage, it meant someone had been watching, recording, documenting my humiliation. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while David slept beside me. The old house settled around us with familiar creaks and sighs, but I found no comfort in the sounds that usually lulled me to sleep. My mind raced with possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. Who would want to hurt me? Why would someone target my career, my reputation, my sanity? The next morning dawned gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. I dressed carefully in my navy blue suit, the one that always made me feel professional and confident. But even my armor felt inadequate today. The coffee pot gurgled as it finished brewing, and I poured my usual large mug, adding cream and sugar with automatic precision. At the office, I tried to focus on my work, but my eyes kept drifting to Patricia's desk. She arrived precisely at 8:30, as always, greeting everyone with that brilliant smile. When she offered to refresh my coffee around 10 o'clock, as she'd been doing for weeks, I almost said yes out of habit. "Actually, I'm fine," I said instead, something making me hesitate. For just a moment, her smile faltered. "Are you sure? You know I don't mind." "I'm sure." I watched her walk to the break room, and for the first time, I noticed how she always seemed to know exactly when my coffee cup was empty. How she'd appear with offers of help just when my concentration started slipping. How her timing was always perfect. At lunch, I met Sarah in the parking lot beside her small red Honda. She looked nervous, constantly glancing around as if checking for surveillance. Sarah had always been petite, but today she seemed almost fragile, her black hair pulled back in an unusually severe ponytail. "Margaret, I need you to see something," she said, unlocking her car. "But first, I need to know, have you noticed anything strange about your coffee lately?" My blood ran cold. "My coffee? What about my coffee?" Sarah pulled out her laptop, balancing it on the hood of her car. "I was reviewing security footage from last week, checking for that equipment theft Mr. Henderson reported. But I noticed something else, something that made my stomach turn." She clicked through several files until she found what she was looking for. The grainy black and white image showed our office break room from the camera mounted in the corner. I watched myself leave my desk, coffee cup in hand, walking toward the restroom. Moments later, Patricia appeared in the frame. "Watch carefully," Sarah whispered. On the screen, Patricia approached my desk with casual confidence. She glanced around, then reached into her purse and pulled out a small vial. With practiced efficiency, she unscrewed the cap and poured something into my coffee mug. The entire process took less than 30 seconds. My legs nearly gave out. Oh my God. Oh my God, Sarah. She's been drugging me. For weeks, Margaret. I found footage going back almost a month. She's been putting something in your coffee every single day. The parking lot seemed to spin around me. Every dizzy spell, every moment of confusion, every humiliating mistake suddenly made horrible sense. Patricia hadn't been helping me. She'd been systematically destroying me, one cup of coffee at a time. Suddenly, the pieces aligned. I stared at the laptop screen. Watching Patricia poison my coffee with such casual precision, it made my skin crawl. But Sarah wasn't finished. Margaret, there's more. Look at this timestamp. She pointed to the corner of the screen. This is from 3 weeks ago, the day before your big presentation to the Morrison account. I remembered that day with painful clarity. I'd worked for months preparing that presentation, but during the meeting, I'd felt so disoriented I could barely string sentences together. I'd mixed up client names, forgotten key data points, and ultimately lost the account. It had been the beginning of my reputation's downward spiral at the office. She knew, I whispered. She knew exactly when to hit me hardest. Sarah scrolled through more footage. It gets worse. Watch this one from 2 weeks ago. This clip showed Patricia lingering by my desk after drugging my coffee, actually rearranging some of my files. She moved documents from one stack to another, then slipped what looked like a report into her purse. She wasn't just making you appear unstable, Sarah said grimly. She was actively sabotaging your work and stealing your ideas. Remember that marketing proposal you swore you'd finished, but couldn't find anywhere? My hands clenched into fists. The Henderson Project. She presented something almost identical to my concept the next week. Because it was your concept. She's been systematically destroying your credibility while building her own career on your work. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. Patricia had sat in my living room just days ago, offering comfort and support, all while knowing she was the architect of my suffering. She'd listened to me doubt my own sanity with those sympathetic eyes, probably enjoying every moment of my confusion and self-doubt. We have to take this to Mr. Henderson immediately, I said. Sarah closed the laptop and shook her head. Margaret, think about this carefully. Right now, who has more credibility in that office? You've been making mistakes for weeks, appearing confused and disorganized. Patricia is the rising star who's been helping you out of the goodness of her heart. The truth of her words hit me like ice water. He won't believe me. Not without more proof. These security cameras are low resolution, and a good lawyer could argue the footage is inconclusive. We need something definitive, something that proves exactly what she's been putting in your coffee. I felt tears of frustration building. So what do we do? Just let her keep poisoning me? No, absolutely not. But we need to be smart about this. Sarah glanced around the parking lot again, then leaned closer. Tomorrow morning, let her bring you coffee like usual. But don't drink it. I'll help you collect a sample, and we'll have it tested. Once we know exactly what drug she's been using, we'll have concrete evidence. The thought of playing along with Patricia's charade for even one more day made me nauseous. But Sarah was right. We needed irrefutable proof. There's something else, though, Sarah continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I've been thinking about the timing of all this. Patricia started drugging you right after the quarterly reviews, remember? Right when Mr. Henderson announced there would be a promotion opportunity opening up in the fall. My blood went cold as the full scope of Patricia's plan became clear. This wasn't just workplace sabotage. It was a calculated campaign to eliminate her competition for the promotion I'd been working toward for 3 years. But as we walked back toward the office building, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Patricia's car was parked in the spot nearest to where we'd been standing, and through the windshield, I could see her silhouette in the driver's seat. She'd been watching us the entire time. My heart hammered against my ribs as I tried to act natural, but Patricia's silhouette in that car window burned into my vision. Sarah noticed my sudden tension and followed my gaze. "Oh no," she whispered. "How long has she been there?" "I don't know." My voice came out strangled. "What if she heard everything?" Sarah grabbed my arm and steered me toward the building entrance, walking at a deliberately casual pace. "We don't know that she did. Maybe she just got back from lunch. Maybe she was on a phone call." But even as Sarah said it, I could tell she didn't believe it herself. We'd been standing maybe 20 feet from Patricia's car, and while we'd kept our voices low, sound carries in parking lots. Inside the elevator, Sarah pressed the button for my floor with hands that weren't quite steady. "Okay, we need to adjust the plan. If she knows we're onto her, she might not bring you coffee tomorrow. Or worse, she might escalate things." "Escalate how?" The elevator seemed to be moving impossibly slowly. "I don't know. But people who are willing to drug their coworkers aren't exactly predictable when they're cornered." The elevator dinged, and the doors opened to reveal Patricia standing right there in the hallway, as if she'd been waiting. Her usual warm smile was in place, but something in her eyes looked different. Sharper. "Margaret! Sarah!" Patricia's voice carried that same friendly tone, but it felt performative now. "I was just looking for you, Margaret. Mr. Henderson wants to see you in his office." My mouth went dry. "Now?" "Right now." Patricia's smile widened. "He seemed pretty urgent about it." Sarah stepped out of the elevator beside me. "What's it about?" "Oh, I'm not sure." Patricia's gaze flicked between us. "But he did mention something about the Morrison account. Apparently, there's been some confusion about the project timeline." The Morrison account. The one where I'd supposedly made those errors that had never felt right to me. My palms started sweating. "I'll walk with you," Sarah said quickly. "Actually," Patricia interjected, "Mr. Henderson specifically asked to see Margaret alone. You know how he is about keeping things confidential during personnel discussions." The way she said personnel discussions made my stomach lurch. Sarah caught my eye, and I could see the same concern reflected there. "It's okay," I told Sarah, trying to project more confidence than I felt. "I'll handle it." As we walked toward Mr. Henderson's office, Patricia kept up a stream of light chatter about weekend plans and office gossip, but I barely heard her. My mind was racing through possibilities, none of them good. Had she somehow convinced Mr. Henderson that I was having more problems? Had she already started damage control, spinning our parking lot conversation into evidence of my instability? We reached Mr. Henderson's door, and Patricia gave me an encouraging pat on the shoulder. "Don't look so nervous, Margaret. I'm sure it's nothing serious." But her hand lingered on my shoulder just a moment too long, and when I looked into her eyes, I saw something that chilled me. She knew. She absolutely knew that we'd figured out what she was doing. I knocked on Mr. Henderson's door, and his gruff voice called me in. As I turned the handle, Patricia leaned close and whispered, "Good luck in there. I hope you're feeling clear-headed today." The threat in those words was unmistakable. I stepped into Mr. Henderson's office, my heart hammering against my ribs. The familiar smell of coffee and old leather filled the space, but today it felt suffocating rather than comforting. Mr. Henderson looked up from his computer, his weathered face creased with what looked like genuine concern. "Margaret, please sit down." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "I wanted to check in with you about a few things." I settled into the chair, trying to keep my hands from shaking. "Patricia mentioned the Morrison account?" "Yes, that's part of it." Mr. Henderson pulled out a manila folder and opened it. "But I'm more concerned about you personally. Patricia came to me this morning with some observations about your behavior lately. She's worried about you." Of course she had. I felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. "What kind of observations?" "Well, she mentioned that you've seemed confused during meetings, that there have been some memory lapses, and that this morning you appeared quite agitated in the parking lot." His eyes were kind but serious. "She said you were talking to Sarah about feeling like someone was trying to sabotage you." The way he said it made it sound paranoid and delusional. I could practically hear Patricia's voice spinning the narrative, painting herself as the concerned colleague trying to help a mentally unstable coworker. "Mr. Henderson, I need to tell you something, and I know it's going to sound impossible." I took a deep breath. "I have reason to believe that Patricia has been putting something in my coffee. Sedatives of some kind." His eyebrows shot up. "Margaret, that's a very serious accusation. I know how it sounds, but Sarah and I figured out the pattern today. Every time I felt confused or made mistakes, it was after drinking coffee that Patricia had prepared or had access to. And this morning, when I didn't drink the coffee she brought me, I felt completely clear-headed for the first time in weeks." Mr. Henderson leaned back in his chair, studying my face. "You're saying Patricia has been deliberately drugging you?" "Yes." The word came out stronger than I felt. "I think she's been trying to make me look incompetent so she could take over my projects." "That's—" He paused, rubbing his jaw. "Margaret, you have to understand how this looks from my perspective. Patricia has been nothing but professional and helpful. She's the one who brought these concerns about your well-being to my attention out of genuine care. She knew we were onto her," I said urgently. The way she acted just now in the hallway, the timing of this meeting, the things she whispered to me before I came in here. She's trying to get ahead of this. Mr. Henderson was quiet for a long moment. "Even if what you're suggesting were true, do you have any proof? Any evidence beyond your suspicions?" My heart sank. "Not yet, but Sarah can back up what I'm telling you about the pattern we noticed." "Sarah, who is your close friend and would naturally want to support you." His tone wasn't unkind, but it was clear he wasn't convinced. "Margaret, I've known you for 3 years. You're a good employee, but lately there have been issues. The Morrison account errors, the confusion during the Hendricks presentation, missed deadlines. Patricia documented these incidents when she came to me." "She documented them?" The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. "She's been building a case. She's been doing her job, keeping track of project issues that could affect the department." Mr. Henderson's voice was patient but firm. "Look, I'm not dismissing what you're telling me, but I need you to consider another possibility. Have you been under unusual stress lately? Any changes in medication, sleep patterns, anything that might explain these symptoms?" I wanted to scream. This was exactly what Patricia had planned. She'd positioned herself as the reliable witness to my decline while simultaneously causing it. And now, sitting here trying to explain it, I probably sounded exactly as unstable as she wanted me to appear. "Mr. Henderson, please, just consider the possibility that I'm telling the truth. What would it hurt to keep an eye on the situation for a few days?" "I'll tell you what," he said after a moment. I want you to take the rest of the day off. Go home, get some rest, maybe see your doctor. We'll revisit this tomorrow with fresh perspectives." "You're sending me home?" Panic crept into my voice. That's exactly what she wants. She's probably already planning to take over my accounts while I'm gone. "Margaret." His tone had shifted to something more authoritative. "You're proving Patricia's point right now. This kind of paranoid thinking is exactly what she was concerned about." I realized with growing horror that every word I spoke was digging me deeper into the hole Patricia had prepared. She'd maneuvered me into a position where defending myself only made me look worse. "I'll go home," I said quietly, knowing I had no choice. "But I'm asking you to please just watch her. Pay attention to how she handles things while I'm out." "I'll keep an eye on everything," Mr. Henderson assured me. "And Margaret, I really do think you should consider seeing someone. A doctor, a counselor. There's no shame in getting help when you're struggling." I nodded and stood up, my legs feeling unsteady. As I reached for the door handle, Mr. Henderson's voice stopped me. "One more thing. Patricia suggested that it might be better if you didn't have access to the building after hours for a while. Just until we sort out what's going on. I'll need your key card." The final piece of her plan clicked into place. Patricia wasn't just trying to make me look unstable. She was systematically cutting me off from any opportunity to gather evidence or fight back. With trembling hands, I pulled my key card from my wallet and placed it on his desk. As I walked back toward my cubicle to gather my things, I spotted Patricia at the copy machine. She looked up as I passed, her expression perfectly composed concern. "How did it go?" she asked softly. "I'm going home for the day," I managed. "Oh, Margaret, I'm so sorry. I know this must be difficult." She reached out as if to touch my arm, and I instinctively stepped back. "I hope you know I only spoke to Mr. Henderson because I care about you." The sincerity in her voice was masterful. If I hadn't known better, I would have believed every word. "I know exactly why you spoke to him," I said quietly. For just a fraction of a second, her mask slipped, and I saw something cold and calculating flash across her features. Then the concerned smile was back in place. "Get some rest," she said warmly. "I'll take care of everything here. Don't worry about any of your projects." As I walked to my cubicle, I realized that Patricia had just won the first major battle in a war I hadn't even known we were fighting. I packed my personal items mechanically, my hands shaking as I tried to process what had just happened. Patricia had orchestrated this perfectly. Every stumble, every confused moment, every time I'd seemed disoriented had been documented in her mental ledger, building toward this moment. The elevator ride down felt endless. I kept replaying the conversation with Mr. Henderson, searching for something I could have said differently. But Patricia had been too thorough. She'd created a narrative where any defense I offered would only confirm her story. By the time I reached my apartment, the sedatives from my morning coffee were wearing off, and my mind was finally starting to clear. I needed help, but who would believe me? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts, stopping at my sister's name. Sarah answered on the second ring. "Hey, what's up? Shouldn't you be at work?" "Sarah, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen to me completely before you respond." My voice was steadier than I'd expected. There was a pause. "Okay, you're scaring me a little. What's going on?" "Someone at work has been drugging my coffee. I know how that sounds, but I need you to hear me out." "Margaret, what are you talking about? Drugging your coffee? That's insane, I know." "But listen to me." I took a deep breath and started from the beginning. telling her about Patricia's arrival, the way my symptoms only appeared at work, the pattern of my confusion coinciding with our coffee meetings. Sarah stayed quiet, letting me talk. When I finished, there was a long silence. "Margaret," Sarah said carefully, "you have to admit this sounds pretty paranoid. Are you sure you're not just stressed? Maybe having some kind of breakdown?" The same words Mr. Henderson had used. I felt my heart sink. That's exactly what she's counting on. No one will believe me because it sounds crazy. "Okay, let's say you're right," Sarah said, her tone becoming more engaged. "How would you prove it? You can't just accuse someone of poisoning you without evidence." "That's the problem. She took my key card. I can't get into the office after hours to check anything, and she's probably already moved whatever she was using." "Wait, they took your key card? Why?" I explained about being sent home, about Patricia's concerns reaching Mr. Henderson, about how I was being painted as mentally unstable. "Jesus, Margaret, if this is true, she's really thought this through." "You believe me?" "I'm trying to. It's a lot. But you don't sound confused right now. You sound like yourself." That small validation felt like a lifeline. I am myself. For the first time in weeks, my head is completely clear. "Okay, so we need to figure out how to prove this." "What about that friend of yours? The one from your old job?" "Tom? Yeah, didn't you say he works in security now? Maybe he could help somehow." I hadn't thought of calling Tom, but Sarah was right. If anyone would believe me, it might be him. We'd worked together for 3 years before he'd moved to a different company. I could try calling him. "Do it. And Margaret, until we figure this out, don't drink anything at work that you didn't bring yourself." "I'm not even sure they'll let me come back tomorrow." "They will. Patricia won't want to push too hard too fast. She needs you there to complete whatever she's planning." After hanging up with Sarah, I stared at Tom's number for a long time before dialing. "Margaret, hey, how are you? It's been ages." "Hi, Tom. I'm actually not great, and I need to ask you something that's going to sound completely insane." "Well, now I'm intrigued. Shoot." I went through the story again, this time focusing on the security aspects. Tom listened without interruption. "So, you think this Patricia has been slipping you something in your coffee to make you seem incompetent?" "I know how it sounds. Actually, it doesn't sound as crazy as you might think. I've seen corporate sabotage before, though usually not this sophisticated. The thing is, if she's as smart as you say, she's probably not keeping anything incriminating around." That's what I figured. But there might be other ways to catch her. "What's your morning routine?" "When does she usually approach you with coffee?" "Around 9:30, usually. She always brings 2 cups and acts like she just happened to get an extra." "And you said your symptoms start about 15 minutes after?" "Give or take." That's fast acting. Probably something like Ativan or Xanax dissolved in the coffee. Easy to get, dissolves well, and would cause exactly the symptoms you're describing. Hearing Tom analyze it so clinically made me feel less crazy. "So, you believe me?" "I believe it's possible. And if it's happening, we need to catch her in the act. Do you have a way to record video on your phone without it being obvious?" "I think so. Why?" "Because tomorrow morning, if she brings you coffee, you're going to accept it graciously, and you're going to record the whole interaction. Then you're going to pretend to drink it while actually dumping it when she's not looking." "But what if she notices I'm not actually drinking it?" "Take small sips, hold it in your mouth, spit it out when you can. The key is to not ingest enough to affect you, but to make her think her plan is working." "What about the coffee itself? If I could save some of it, could we test it?" "Absolutely. But you'd need to be careful about chain of custody if you want it to hold up later." I felt something I hadn't experienced in weeks. Hope. For the first time since Patricia had arrived, I had a plan that didn't involve just defending myself. Tom, there's something else. She's managed to get me sent home today and convinced my boss I might be having mental health issues. I think she's positioning herself to take over my accounts. Classic corporate warfare. She discredits you, isolates you, then steps in as the hero who can handle your workload. How long has she been planning this? It has to have been from the beginning, from her first day. Margaret, if this is really what's happening, you need to be very careful tomorrow. Don't let on that you suspect anything. Act exactly like you have been. Can you do that? I think so. Good. And one more thing. Document everything, times, dates, witnesses to your interactions. If this goes legal, you'll need a paper trail. After we hung up, I spent the evening writing down everything I could remember about the past few weeks. Every coffee Patricia had brought me, every time I'd felt confused or disoriented, every meeting where I'd seemed incompetent. The pattern was undeniable once I laid it all out. Patricia had been systematic, methodical, and terrifyingly patient. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Patricia. Hi, Margaret. Just wanted to check in and see how you're feeling. I handled the Morrison account presentation today. Went really well. Don't worry about anything work-related. Just focus on getting better. See you tomorrow. I stared at the message, feeling a chill run down my spine. The Morrison account was my biggest client, one I'd been cultivating for months. She'd just casually mentioned taking it over, disguised as friendly concern. But there was something else in the message that made my blood run cold. How did she get my personal cell phone number? I'd never given it to her. I stared at Patricia's text message, my hands trembling slightly. The casual way she'd mentioned taking over my biggest client was infuriating, but the fact that she had my personal number when I'd never given it to her felt like a violation. I screenshot the message and called Sarah immediately. She has my personal cell number, I said without preamble when Sarah answered. What? How is that possible? I have no idea. I never gave it to her. She just texted me about how she handled the Morrison presentation today. Sarah, that's my biggest account. I've been working on that deal for months. This is escalating fast. She's not even trying to be subtle anymore. I could hear the concern in my sister's voice, and it made me realize how much I'd been leaning on her through this nightmare. Sarah had always been the practical one in our family, but I'd never needed her steady presence more than I did now. I'm scared, I admitted. What if Tom's plan doesn't work? What if I can't prove what she's doing? Then we'll figure out something else. You're not going through this alone, Margaret, but you have to try tomorrow. You have to get evidence. After we hung up, I tried to sleep but kept turning the situation over in my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined Patricia carefully measuring out sedatives into my coffee, smiling that fake smile while she systematically destroyed my career. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, my phone already set to record. I'd practiced the night before, learning how to start recording without looking at the screen. Tom had been right about needing evidence, but the weight of what I was about to attempt made my stomach churn. Patricia arrived at her usual time, and I forced myself to act normally, responding to her cheerful greeting with what I hoped looked like genuine gratitude for her support yesterday. At exactly 9:15, she approached my desk with 2 coffee cups. I thought you might need some extra caffeine today after being out sick yesterday, she said, setting 1 cup down in front of me. I added a little extra cream, just how you like it. I'd never told her how I liked my coffee. That's so thoughtful of you, I managed, reaching for my phone and discreetly starting the recording. You've been taking such good care of me. Of course, that's what teammates do. Patricia sat on the edge of my desk, watching as I lifted the cup to my lips. I took a small sip, holding the liquid in my mouth before swallowing just enough to make the motion convincing. The coffee tasted slightly bitter, with an aftertaste I hadn't noticed before, but now recognized. How are you feeling today? Any more of those dizzy spells? Patricia's voice carried just the right note of concern, but her eyes were watching me intently. A little better, I said, taking another fake sip. Though I have to admit, I'm still worried about the Morrison presentation. I've been working on that account for so long. Oh, don't worry about that at all. I handled everything yesterday, and Mr. Morrison was very impressed. In fact, he specifically asked to continue working with me going forward. He was concerned about the quality of work when you were having your difficulties. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. She was dismantling my professional life piece by piece, and she was enjoying it. That's probably for the best, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady while I continued the recording. I think so too. You should focus on getting healthy. Maybe consider taking some extended time off. I've been thinking I could help cover more of your accounts temporarily. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. How's it going? Thinking of you. The simple message from my sister gave me the strength to continue the charade. I pretended to drink more coffee while Patricia outlined how she could help by taking over more of my responsibilities. Each suggestion was another nail in my professional coffin, delivered with that same fake, sympathetic smile. When Patricia finally returned to her desk, I quickly poured most of the remaining coffee into an empty water bottle I'd brought for this purpose, then refilled the coffee cup with water from my desk plant to maintain the illusion that I'd finished drinking it. By lunchtime, I felt clear-headed and alert for the first time in weeks. The contrast was startling. I'd been so gradually worn down by the daily drugging that I hadn't realized how much of myself I'd lost. Tom called during my lunch break. How did it go? I got it. The whole conversation recorded, plus I saved most of the coffee. Tom, she's already taken my biggest client. She's moving faster than we expected. That was probably always the timeline. She needed you discredited quickly before anyone started asking questions about the timing of her arrival and your sudden problems. What do I do now? You document everything from today while it's fresh, and tomorrow we take this to your boss. With the recording and the coffee sample, you should have enough evidence to protect yourself. That evening, Sarah came over to my apartment. She'd brought Chinese takeout and listened while I played the recording from my phone. Hearing Patricia's voice again, so caring on the surface but calculating underneath, made my skin crawl. She's terrifying, Sarah said when the recording ended. The way she talks about taking your accounts like she's doing you a favor? What if no one believes me? What if they think I'm just paranoid or trying to blame someone else for my problems? Sarah reached across the table and took my hand. Margaret, I've watched you my entire life. You're the most competent, reliable person I know. These past few weeks, seeing you doubt yourself, seeing you so confused and scared, that wasn't you. Now that you know what's been happening, you're already getting your strength back. I couldn't have gotten through this without you. That's what family is for. Besides, I wasn't going to let some corporate psychopath destroy my sister. We spent the evening going over my plan for the next day. Sarah helped me organize all my documentation and practice what I would say to my boss. Her steady presence reminded me of all the times growing up when she'd helped me prepare for difficult situations, from school presentations to job interviews. As Sarah was getting ready to leave, my phone buzzed with another text from Patricia. Just wanted to check on you again. I hope you're feeling better after today. I noticed you seemed a bit more energetic. That's great news. See you bright and early tomorrow. I'll bring coffee again. She's still planning to drug you tomorrow? Sarah said, reading over my shoulder. Good. Letter. Now I know what to expect, and I have a meeting with my boss first thing in the morning. But as I was getting ready for bed, another text came through, this one from Tom. We might have a problem. Patricia just called me. My heart sank as I stared at Tom's message. Patricia calling him directly changed everything. The careful plan we'd constructed suddenly felt fragile, like a house of cards that could collapse with one wrong move. I called Tom immediately. What did she say? She was fishing for information. Started off asking how I was doing, then mentioned she was concerned about you. Said she'd noticed some troubling behavior patterns and wondered if I'd observed anything similar. The calculating nature of it made my stomach turn. Even now, even after I'd caught her red-handed, Patricia was working angles, building her narrative. What did you tell her? I played dumb, told her you seemed fine to me, maybe a little tired from work stress. But Margaret, she's smart. I could tell she was testing whether you'd confided in me about anything. I sank onto my couch, suddenly feeling the weight of how isolated Patricia had made me. For weeks, I'd been questioning my own perceptions, doubting my instincts, pulling away from the people who cared about me. She'd systematically dismantled my confidence and my support system while positioning herself as the concerned colleague. She's scared, I realized out loud. She wouldn't be reaching out to you unless she suspected I might be onto her. That's what I'm thinking too. The question is, what's her next move? If she thinks you're becoming suspicious, she might escalate things. The thought sent a chill through me. Patricia had already proven she was willing to drug me repeatedly over weeks. What would she do if she felt cornered? Tom, what if she tries to claim I'm having some kind of breakdown? What if she goes to our boss before I get the chance? Then we adjust. You still have the recording and the coffee sample. Physical evidence trumps accusations. But as we talked, I could hear the concern in Tom's voice that matched my own growing anxiety. Patricia calling him wasn't just information gathering, it was a warning shot. She was letting us know, consciously or not, that she was aware the game had changed. After I hung up with Tom, sleep felt impossible. I kept replaying Patricia's voice from the recording, the way she'd talked about taking my accounts as if it were inevitable. The casual cruelty of it, the months of planning it must have taken, made me feel sick. I found myself walking through my apartment, checking the locks twice, closing curtains I normally left open. Patricia knew where I lived. She'd driven me home several times when I'd been too disoriented to drive safely. The very help I'd been grateful for had been part of her manipulation. My phone buzzed again near midnight. Another text from Patricia. I've been thinking about our conversation today. I hope I didn't overstep by expressing concern. Sometimes I worry I care too much about my colleagues. Sweet dreams! The false warmth in her message felt more sinister now than ever. She was still playing her role, but there was something different about this text. More pointed, like she was reminding me that she was thinking about me, watching me, even at this late hour. I screenshot the message and added it to the folder I'd created with all my documentation. Looking at the timeline of her texts over the past few weeks, a pattern emerged that I hadn't noticed before. The messages always came after she'd dosed my coffee, usually in the evening when the sedatives would be wearing off. She'd been monitoring my recovery cycle, probably gauging how the drugs affected me and for how long. The realization made me feel violated in a way I hadn't expected. This wasn't just workplace sabotage, it was intimate, psychological manipulation. Patricia had studied my responses, calibrated her dosages, observed my confusion and distress like I was a lab experiment. I tried calling Sarah, but it went straight to voicemail. She was probably asleep, and honestly, I'd already put her through enough today. But sitting alone with these thoughts felt unbearable. The apartment that usually felt like my sanctuary now seemed exposed, vulnerable. I made myself tea and sat at my kitchen table, forcing myself to think through tomorrow logically. I had a meeting scheduled with my boss at 9 a.m. I had evidence. I had Tom as a witness to Patricia's strange phone call. These were concrete things, not the paranoid delusions Patricia had been trying to make them seem. But what haunted me was how close she'd come to succeeding. Another few weeks, maybe another lost client or two, and my reputation would have been damaged beyond repair. I might have been put on leave, or worse, fired for incompetence. Patricia would have stepped seamlessly into my role, the concerned colleague who'd tried so hard to help. Around 2 a.m., I finally crawled into bed, but sleep came in fragments. I kept waking up, checking my phone, listening for sounds that weren't there. At some point, I realized this hypervigilance was another gift Patricia had given me: the inability to feel safe in my own space. When my alarm went off at 6, I felt like I'd been awake for hours. In a way, I had been. My mind had been running scenarios, playing out confrontations, imagining Patricia's face when she realized her plan had been exposed. As I got ready for what would probably be the most important day of my career, I caught sight of myself in the bathroom mirror. For the first time in weeks, my eyes looked clear, alert. The foggy confusion that had become my constant companion was gone, replaced by something sharper. Patricia had underestimated me. She'd seen someone she could manipulate and control, someone too trusting to suspect sabotage. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd gotten greedy. Taking my client while I was still functional enough to notice had been her downfall. I was putting on my jacket when my phone rang. Tom's name appeared on the screen, but when I answered, his voice was tense with urgency. "Margaret, don't go to the office yet. Patricia just sent an email to your boss requesting an emergency meeting about your mental health. She's moving faster than we thought." My hands tightened around the phone. "What exactly did she say?" "I only saw it because she copied me on it, probably by accident. She's claiming you've been exhibiting erratic behavior, missing deadlines, and that she's concerned about your ability to handle your current workload. She's requesting an immediate meeting to discuss options for support." I sank onto my couch, jacket half on. She's trying to get there first, control the narrative before I can present my evidence. That's exactly what she's doing. But here's the thing. Mr. Henderson hasn't responded yet. I checked the system, and he's not even in the office yet. His calendar shows he doesn't arrive until 8:30. So, I still have time? Maybe, but Margaret, you need to be prepared for the possibility that she's already poisoned the well. If she's been planning this as long as we think, she might have been dropping hints about your performance for weeks. The thought made my stomach churn. How many casual conversations had Patricia had with our boss? How many times had she mentioned my confusion or forgetfulness in passing? She'd been so methodical about everything else. "Tom, I need you to do something for me. Can you print out Patricia's email and bring it to Mr. Henderson's office? I want him to see the timeline. Her email coming right after our discovery yesterday." "Already done. I printed it the moment I saw it. Margaret, there's something else. Patricia's not in the office yet either, but her computer shows she sent that email at 4:30 this morning." 4:30? I felt a chill. She was awake at 4:30 in the morning, writing emails about my mental health. It gets worse. I checked the email logs. She's been logging into her work account from home at odd hours for the past 3 weeks. Always late at night or very early morning. It's like she's been monitoring something. The full scope of Patricia's obsession was becoming clearer. This wasn't just workplace sabotage, it was a campaign that had consumed her life. She'd been staying up at night, planning, strategizing, watching for any sign that her scheme might be discovered. "I'm coming in now," I said, standing up and adjusting my jacket properly. "Can you meet me in the lobby? I don't want to run into Patricia before I talk to Mr. Henderson." "Of course. But Margaret, what if she's already there? What if she's in his office right now?" I paused at my door, keys in hand. The fear was real. Patricia could be sitting across from our boss at this very moment, painting me as unstable, dangerous even. She could be explaining how concerned she'd been, how she'd tried to help, how difficult it had been to watch a colleague deteriorate. Then I'll wait. I'll wait all day if I have to, but I'm not letting her write the ending to this story. The drive to the office felt surreal. Every red light seemed to last forever, every minute potentially crucial. I kept imagining Patricia in Mr. Henderson's office, her concerned expression, her carefully modulated voice explaining how she'd tried so hard to help me, how difficult this decision had been for her. Tom was waiting in the lobby when I arrived, a folder in his hand and tension written across his face. "Any word from upstairs?" I asked. "Mr. Henderson arrived 10 minutes ago. Patricia's car isn't in the parking garage yet, but that doesn't mean she's not here. She could have parked on the street." We rode the elevator in silence. When the doors opened on our floor, I could see Mr. Henderson's office. The lights were on, but I couldn't tell if he was alone. "Margaret," Tom said quietly as we walked toward my cubicle, "whatever happens in there, remember that you have evidence, you have facts. Don't let her turn this into a he said she said situation about your behavior." I nodded, but my heart was racing. Everything I'd worked for, my entire career, was about to be decided in whatever conversation happened next. Patricia had been planning this moment for weeks, maybe months. She'd had time to prepare, to rehearse her concerned colleague act. But I had something she didn't expect: the truth and proof of what she'd done. My phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Henderson. "Can you come to my office when you get in? We need to discuss a few things." The neutral tone told me nothing. Had Patricia already been there? Was this the meeting she'd requested, or was he responding to my own request from yesterday? "This is it," I told Tom, showing him the message. "You've got this," he said, but I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. As I walked toward Mr. Henderson's office, I saw Patricia emerging from the elevator, her face a mask of professional concern. Our eyes met across the office floor, and for just a moment, her careful composure slipped. I saw surprise, then calculation, then something that looked almost like panic. She'd expected to find me confused, drugged, struggling to defend myself. Instead, she was looking at someone who was wide awake, clear-eyed, and ready for a fight. I straightened my shoulders and walked directly toward Mr. Henderson's office, but Patricia intercepted me halfway across the floor. "Margaret, I'm so glad you're here," she said, her voice carrying that familiar note of false concern. "I was just about to speak with Mr. Henderson about getting you some help. You've been struggling so much lately, and I think it's time we address this situation properly." The audacity of it took my breath away. Even now, even caught, she was still trying to control the narrative. "Actually, Patricia, I think Mr. Henderson and I need to discuss your situation," I said quietly. "Your tendency to drug coworkers' coffee, for instance." Her face went white, then flushed red. For a moment, she looked like she might deny it entirely, but something in my expression must have told her I had proof. "I don't know what you think you've discovered," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. But you've been acting erratically for weeks. Everyone's noticed. Whatever conspiracy theory you've constructed in your mind. The blood test results aren't a conspiracy theory, I interrupted. Neither are the security camera recordings Tom helped me review. Patricia's eyes darted toward Tom's desk, where he sat watching our conversation with obvious tension. Her carefully constructed facade was finally cracking. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," she said, and for the first time, her voice carried genuine emotion instead of manufactured concern. This job was supposed to be mine. The promotion, the recognition. I've been here 3 years longer than you. I've watched mediocre people get ahead while I stayed invisible. The confession hung between us in the open office space. I realized she wasn't just admitting to drugging me. She was explaining why she thought it was justified. "So, you decided to destroy my career instead of building your own?" I asked. "I decided to level the playing field," she said. "You waltz in here with your perfect presentations and your natural rapport with clients, and everyone assumes you're just naturally better at this job. But what if you weren't? What if you struggled like everyone else? What if people saw you as fallible, as human?" The twisted logic of it was almost fascinating. In her mind, making me appear mentally unstable wasn't malicious. It was justice. "Patricia," I said carefully, "you could have destroyed my life. My reputation, my health, my career. Your career you built on advantages I never had." She snapped back, her professional mask completely gone now. "You don't get to play victim when the game finally gets rigged against you instead of for you." I saw Mr. Henderson's office door open in my peripheral vision. He stepped out, clearly having heard raised voices, and looked between Patricia and me with growing concern. "Is everything all right out here?" he asked. Patricia immediately shifted back into her concerned colleague mode, but the transition was too abrupt, too obvious after what I'd just witnessed. "Mr. Henderson, I was just trying to talk to Margaret about getting some professional help," she said. "She's been making some very concerning accusations, and I'm worried about her mental state." But Mr. Henderson was looking at me, not Patricia, and I realized Tom must have already spoken with him. There was something in his expression, not confusion or concern about my behavior, but attention. He was listening, waiting for my version. "Sir, I have some serious allegations to make about Patricia's conduct," I said clearly. "I have evidence that she's been systematically sabotaging my work and my health over the past several weeks." Patricia laughed, but it sounded forced. "This is exactly what I'm talking about, these paranoid delusions. The blood work showing sedatives in my system isn't a delusion," I said. "Neither are the security recordings of Patricia near my desk every morning before I arrived." Mr. Henderson's expression grew very serious. "I think we all need to step into my office. Now." As we walked toward his office, Patricia whispered urgently beside me. "You have no idea what you're unleashing here. This won't just destroy me. It'll destroy the entire team dynamic. People will never trust each other again." I realized she was still trying to manipulate the situation, making me responsible for the consequences of exposing her actions rather than accepting responsibility for the actions themselves. But as we settled into chairs across from Mr. Henderson's desk, I saw Patricia's hands shaking slightly as she smoothed her skirt. Despite all her preparation, all her planning, she hadn't expected this moment to arrive with me clear-headed and armed with evidence. Mr. Henderson closed the door and sat down, his expression grave. "Before we begin, I want both of you to know that Tom came to me yesterday with some very serious concerns. Margaret, he mentioned you had requested this meeting to discuss Patricia's behavior. Patricia, You also requested time to discuss concerns about Margaret's performance and well-being. Patricia shot me a look of pure venom, realizing that Tom's early intervention had changed the entire dynamic of this confrontation. Now, Mr. Henderson continued, I'd like to hear from both of you, starting with the evidence you mentioned, Margaret. I placed the printed blood test results on Mr. Henderson's desk first, my hands steadier than I'd expected them to be. The medical letterhead looked official and damning under his desk lamp. These results show traces of lorazepam and diphenhydramine in my bloodstream from tests conducted 3 days ago, I said. I've never taken either medication, and I hadn't been to a doctor or dentist recently. The only explanation is that someone was putting these substances in something I was consuming regularly. Mr. Henderson studied the papers carefully, while Patricia sat rigidly in her chair beside me. I could hear her breathing, quick and shallow. The timing correlates with behavioral changes that Patricia has been documenting and reporting, I continued. Drowsiness, confusion, memory issues, missed deadlines. All symptoms that would be explained by regular, low-level sedation. This is absolutely ridiculous, Patricia said, but her voice lacked its usual confident authority. Anyone could have doctored those results, or Margaret could have taken those medications herself and then… Patricia, Mr. Henderson interrupted quietly. Let Margaret finish presenting her evidence. I pulled out the printed screenshots from the security footage that Tom had helped me obtain. These show Patricia at my desk area every morning between 7:15 and 7:25 a.m. for the past 3 weeks. I typically arrive at 8:00 a.m. She had no official reason to be in my workspace during those times. Mr. Henderson examined each image, noting the timestamps. Patricia was clearly visible in several, standing near my desk, sometimes holding what appeared to be a coffee cup. Tom can verify that Patricia has been making my coffee every morning during this period, I added. She started this routine about a month ago, claiming she was trying to be helpful since I seemed stressed. Patricia's composed mask was beginning to crack. Helping a colleague with coffee is hardly evidence of poisoning. This is exactly the kind of paranoid thinking I've been concerned about. The pattern is clear, I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. The behavioral symptoms began shortly after Patricia started this coffee routine. The security footage shows her accessing my workspace when she had no reason to be there. The blood work confirms the presence of sedatives, and Patricia has been the primary person documenting and reporting my supposed decline in performance. Mr. Henderson leaned back in his chair, his expression grave. Patricia, these are very serious accusations. Do you have any explanation for why you were at Margaret's desk during those times? Patricia's pause lasted too long. When she finally spoke, her usual smooth confidence was replaced by something desperate and sharp. I was checking on her work because I was genuinely concerned about her performance. As someone who's been here longer, I felt responsible for helping her succeed. If I didn't mention it, it was because I didn't want to embarrass her by making it obvious that she needed supervision. So you were reviewing my work without my knowledge or consent? I asked. And you felt authorized to do this without informing Mr. Henderson? I was being discreet, Patricia snapped, then seemed to realize her tone was revealing too much. She tried to soften it. I was trying to help. Mr. Henderson's expression had shifted completely. The polite attention was gone, replaced by something much more serious and focused. Patricia, I'm going to need you to explain why you felt it was appropriate to monitor Margaret's work without reporting your concerns through proper channels. And I'm going to need a detailed account of every interaction you've had with Margaret's coffee, her desk area, and her work materials. Patricia looked between us, and I saw the moment she realized her carefully constructed narrative was falling apart. The caring colleague persona she'd maintained for weeks was becoming impossible to sustain under direct questioning. You're both overreacting, she said. but there was a tremor in her voice now. Margaret has been struggling, and I was trying to help her before it became a bigger issue. I never put anything in her coffee. This is all circumstantial. The blood work isn't circumstantial, Mr. Henderson said quietly. And if Margaret is correct about the timeline, we'll be able to correlate the security footage with the dates when these substances appeared in her system. Patricia went very still, and I realized she was calculating something, probably trying to figure out exactly how much evidence we actually had versus how much we might be bluffing about. I want to speak with HR before this goes any further, she said finally. These accusations could damage my reputation permanently, and I don't think this meeting is being conducted fairly. HR will definitely be involved, Mr. Henderson agreed. But first, I need to understand the full scope of what's been happening here. Margaret, you mentioned that Patricia has been documenting your behavior. Can you elaborate on that? I described the daily check-ins, the concerned questions about my health, the way Patricia had positioned herself as the witness to my declining performance while simultaneously being the person who was supposedly trying to help me. She created the problem and then made herself indispensable as the solution, I said. Every time I had a bad day because of the sedatives, Patricia was there to document it and offer support. She was building a case for my mental instability while being the cause of it. Patricia stood up abruptly. I don't have to listen to this anymore. You're both attacking me based on Margaret's paranoid theories and some coincidental timing. I've worked here for 5 years with an exemplary record, and I won't let someone's mental health crisis destroy my career. Sit down, Patricia, Mr. Henderson said, and there was steel in his voice I'd never heard before. We're not finished here. Patricia remained standing, her hands clenched at her sides. I think I need to contact my union representative. That's your right, Mr. Henderson said. But this conversation is happening today, with or without union representation. The allegations are too serious to delay. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning and Patricia's rapid breathing. I watched her face cycle through different expressions as she tried to find a way out of the trap that was closing around her. Finally, she sat back down, but her posture was rigid with barely contained anger. Fine, she said, but I want it on record that I'm being coerced into this discussion without proper representation. Mr. Henderson made a note. Noted. Now let's start from the beginning. When did you first notice changes in Margaret's behavior, and what specific actions did you take in response? As Patricia began to speak, I realized that every answer she gave was only going to make things worse for her. The more she tried to explain her actions, the clearer the pattern of manipulation became. She'd been so thorough in her documentation, so careful in her approach, that she'd created an elaborate paper trail of her own guilt.